Jason.
Back.
Meet again.
Yeah.
Now this is a real surprise because I wasn't expecting an album so quickly after Load.
Yeah. That was just kind of the plan, you know,
Yeah.
because we were going to do all of them, you know, to begin with,
Yeah.
all 30 songs together, and it just didn't work out, so we put the tour in between and then come back and finish it.
Welcome to where our time sits still. No one leaves and no one will. Moon is full, never seem to change. The evil meant an easy reach. I dream the same thing every night. See our freedom in my sight. No locked doors, no windows barred. Things that make my brain see in the sky.
We started in the fall of '94, and you know, in a nutshell, is that every time we've hit whatever the magic number was, 10 or 12, or whatever an album's worth of material was, we just stopped, always in the past. This time, for some reason, we just kept going. And it was only because the creative process, the creative juices kept flowing, and that it seemed like, in the past, there was a kind of pattern where what we consider to be the stronger songs were always written early. And as we got sort of to song 10, song 11, we started getting to the fluffier stuff. This time, you know, song 15 was as strong as song 2, and likewise. And so we just kind of kept going until we ran out of time. We kept writing for about 6 months, and then in the spring of '95, we went into the studio and started recording a whole bunch. And with the idea being that we were going to make the 6th Metallica album a double album. And then when we had been in the studio for about 8 or 9 months trying to record all these 30-odd songs or whatever, that's when we kind of said, time out. Let's maybe divide these up into 2 separate records and get out of the studio, go on the road, do Lollapalooza, just start it going. And so that's kind of what happened. But it is very unusual for us to keep going in terms of writing in true egotistical fashion that all the songs we were writing were all good enough to put on a record, which is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, it still feels very right, and the songs that we're coming back to for Reload, they still feel really strong, and we are giving you and everybody every single one of them, and you slice and dice them however way you want.
It's nice to get away from those songs for a year or so, and to come back with them with a fresh perspective. I mean, it really worked well because we had the luxury of just getting them out of our heads for a while, and just concentrating on touring. And when we had time, slapping it on in the hotel room and just listening to them and getting ideas and making notes or like working on little guitar parts. I mean, that's what I did. I worked on a lot of guitar parts for this album in the hotel rooms, and like I'd call up Lars at 3 in the morning and say, "Hey, come over." You know, I'd come over all drunk, and I'd play him a guitar part, and he'd go like, "That's great, we got to use that."
How do you sit down and write these songs? I mean, you know.
It really hasn't changed over all the 16 years we've been putting stuff together. Lars and I sit down with the blindfold on and listen to riff tapes and pick whatever riff sounds best and make a song out of it. Some of these Reload songs, we had lived with them for 2 years. You know, after writing them, going on the Load tour, and coming back to re-record them, everyone had their little notes on the road. Well, okay, and Fixer, add this. Do this, chop that bit out, and we all kind of had quite a few different ideas when we got back into the studio, which was pretty interesting. You put your notes together and see, you collide that way, and some really cool stuff comes out of it that way.
Let my heart welcome me, but the cold stone's all I see.
You start with the rhythms, you start with it's the same thing as building a house. You start with the foundation, and then when you've built the foundation, you add all the other stuff on top. You start by taking, you start by taking,
That's a drummer's riff.
right, you start by taking a riff, and you see some things, and you push it a little this way, and you try this way, and you get some tempos, and you set up some key changes that will work with melodies, and you follow some kind of almost ignorant, instinctive path that you just walk down blindly without. I think the main thing for us is not to have a plan. The minute we would have some kind of plan or some kind of preconceived idea of what we're doing, I don't think it would work. We have an ability to strip ourselves of preconceived notion when we do this and just find a way to kind of turn some kind of instinctive juices into something that ends up being a song.
I think we're pretty good at judging what needs and what doesn't need color or extra production ideas. You can polish a song way too much, and then some you can't polish. You can't shine a turd most of the time. But some of these songs, you get too much stuff in them and it just clutters up. Especially there's a nice little area and there's a hole. Okay, and everyone jumps in the hole to fill it. And you get too much stuff. You have to strip down and really stand back and understand what's the best part for this song.
So close, no matter how far. Couldn't be much more from the heart. Forever trusting who we are, and nothing else matters. Never open myself this way. Life is ours, we live it our way. All these words I don't just say, and nothing else matters. Trust I seek and I find in you. Every day for us something new. Open mind for a different view, and nothing else matters. Never care for what we do. Never care for what they know. And I know. So close, no matter how far. Couldn't be much more from the heart. Forever trusting who we are, and nothing else matters. Never care for what they do. Never care for what they know. And I know.
There are two questions that are like impossible to answer. Where do these things come from, and what's it like to play on stage? You can't answer that. You can never. What's it like unless you've been on stage in front of 50,000 people? I can't tell you what it's like, and it's really hard to. Where does it come from? It comes from the things around you. It comes from the things within you. It comes from finding balances between the things that influence you and the things that you want to hear and the things that you want to do, and it comes from some kind of unexplainable songwriting partnership with James that has worked for 16 years and hopefully will work for another 16 years, but is very difficult to break down into sentences that other people can understand.
I can't remember anything. Can't tell if this is true or a dream. Deep down inside, I feel this dream.
Father, I need help. I'm in terrible trouble and I need help.
With this album, you had a lot of the pre-production done as far as those songs were concerned.
Right. They were all written at the same time. We were under the impression that we were going to finish all of them.
Yeah.
So all the drum tracks were recorded, some guitar stuff. And really we got down to the wire and thought, you know, we're not going to be able to finish all these. Let's just finish the ones that we've got most done on. And the ones that we got the most done on were kind of, I think, some of the easier songs. And, you know, when you're in the studio, you kind of start off with some of the easier stuff and get used to the studio again. So these songs that are the rest of Load, the writing set, you know, the Load writing, are kind of, I think they're a little more extreme. Some of the slower, heavier stuff, a little faster, more. There's a few more stripped down, kind of folksy songs. So a little more of the extremes, which is a lot of fun.
With Fuel, the first track that I heard, James was saying how you both came back and heard the guitar sounds and thought they sound flat, or they're just, so you redid all of that.
We redid the rhythm guitars.
But it was probably through the energy of being on stage, you know?
Absolutely. The one great thing about having songs, unreleased songs, and this is the first time in our career that we've ever been able to do this, is that, you know, we were able to play these unreleased songs on stage live in front of people and kind of gauge their reaction to it. And, you know, we can go back to that feeling of playing them on stage and try to capture that feeling in the studio. And when we heard the tracks after the tour, we decided, you know, it doesn't sound as lively as it does on stage when we're kicking it out, you know, we're playing in front of people and, like, you know, everything's really pumping. And so we basically decided that, you know, I think it probably lies in the guitar sounds.
Yeah.
The guitar sounds are way too similar in live, and James and I have different guitar sounds completely. And so that was pretty much the main reason why we went out and redid those.
Well,
those
and it certainly
guitar
kicks
sounds.
in the recording. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's got that real live kick about it, you know. James said it's a more AC/DC type thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah absolutely. AC/DC is one of our favorite bands, by the way.
All right, Unforgiven.
Kind of a sequel type of thing.
Drum
It
intro.
started out with
And
You know,
this has
the
got some
idea of trying to
fantastic guitar sounds in it.
and,
I love
and
it.
fantastic lyrics. The
Yeah.
words and the vocal application is wonderful. I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about that, the lyric thing. But it's just really touching. I think that Unforgiven 2 is going to be a massive, massive song in many, many countries.
It's pretty huge, that song.
Yeah.
It's come out really nice. The song itself was really just kind of ended up goofing around on a guitar and ended up writing something that was pretty similar to Unforgiven and trying to sneak it by in another way. But you know, at the end of the day, okay, so it's Unforgiven. You know, we can borrow some ideas from ourselves.
When you first went out with this tour, were you apprehensive about how it might work?
Well, I thought we were pretty insane. Like, what the hell are we doing? You know, we've got this $1 million stage, and you know, what if it doesn't work? But that's the cool kind of gamble of it all. You know, after a few shows, I mean, we hadn't even rehearsed the thing. You know, at the end of this show, I don't know if you know much about it, but there was, you know, the towers fall. We kind of take the piss out of ourselves. You know, explosions go off, things fall apart, people dying, and you know, burning guys running around. But you know, we didn't even rehearse any of that stuff. So the first show, stuff's falling, and so we were pretty good actors the first show. After a while, you kind of get used to it. But
well, I mean, I remember it continued on, and where one of your crew had an accident, and unbeknownst to yourself, and you looked down and saw this blood on the stage, and thought, well, that looks real, and they said it is.
Well, he got it. I mean, the crew were so into this, you know. Besides, you know, having to load the gear and plug stuff in, that boring crap. Wow, I get to be part of the show, you know. Hey, you want to go up there and fall out of the truss? Hell yeah, you know. Don't you need a safety rope? Nah, you know. He's swinging, and he got into it. And he, you know, he had blood packs and things, so he was getting all crazy, you know. And I saw the, you know, puddle of blood, and it's like, wow, that looks like real blood. Well, it is, you know. He's off to the hospital. Came back the next gig with, you know, staples in his head. So his name was Staples.
Staples, yeah. I mean, is this because one of the bosses, you being the boss has gone through so much yourself that, I mean, you're not actually prone to not having no accident or two, you know?
Well, it's fun. There's a pleasure in seeing other people getting in huge horrors than yourself. Yeah, I've had my share of mishaps, but yeah, there were a few things that happened on the tour that, you know, at sound check, some explosion went off in the guy's face and stuff, but it wasn't the safest tour we've done, and that's the way we like it. I think there were a lot of people out there expecting us to play, you know, 8 songs from Load, and you know, I never liked it when a band went out and, you know, I'd go see Judas Priest and they play all a Point of Entry or something. It's like, oh, boring. You know, I want to see what they've done in their career. You know, hear all the songs. And the more albums you get, the harder it is to get a set together. But there was a good balance of all the songs.
Yeah.
They fit in perfect. You know, playing new songs live is always a bit of a quirky feeling, but after a while, you know, it's just part of the whole set.
Well, I mean, James was saying of how Bob really works so closely with you and comes up with ideas as much, and so, well, you know, no, yes, no. And there's not a major argument. It's a...
If there's anyone who qualifies as the 5th member of Metallica, it would be Bob Rock. Definitely.
Now, I said fifth member, and James said no, father.
Yeah.
I said, there's no way that lot could control you.
Well,
like,
maybe
you know?
he's a father figure to James, but he's a fifth member figure to me, and
right.
more like a big brother.
Adrenaline starts to flow, bashing all around.
With Load, it was certainly a different musical direction. Did it frighten you that you were writing songs and thinking this is definitely going to be different?
No, I welcome that. I
Did you
love
welcome
that.
it?
I love it.
Yeah?
I love it. I mean, we've been together for 16 years. We have done all our growing up in front of people. We've done everything, all
Became
our
the biggest
changes,
band in the
everything
world.
that we've done has been in public. And so there are two things that you can do. You can, every time that there are natural changes that happen to you, you can mask them and hide them from people, or you can just say, this is what it is, take it or leave it, but at least I'm being straight with you. We've always chosen the path of being straight with people, and every time we have naturally gone in some different direction than where we came from, we have always been very, this is where we're going now, and either come along for the ride, but don't damn us for it, because it's what we have to do. And I think that I always welcome that. I love change. As a person, not even as a member of Metallica, but just as a person, I try to be as open-minded as I can and welcome as many different approaches
Yeah.
and opportunities. And I love going into a room and not knowing what is to be expected in there, and not knowing what will hit me when I walk in there, instead of always taking the same path.